Welcome, Super Horror family, to another episode of Whispers in the Dark. I'm your host, Eddie. It appears TikTok is always in the crosshairs. People saying children are on it too much. People saying it's spying on us. But there's something about it that can be even more dangerous that isn't spoken about it as often. Peer pressure. People will do stupid things for likes, even things they know they shouldn't do. So settle down and prepare yourself for tonight's terror tale, a TikTok challenge gone wrong. I summoned the darkness. George had always dreamt of being popular, but it seemed like he could never quite catch up with the ever-changing trends. No matter how hard he tried, he was always one step behind, missing the opportunity to ride the wave of the latest craze. This was frustrating for him, but he didn't give up. He was determined he'd get a break if he kept trying, so he was always on the lookout for the next big thing. This one day while he was browsing the internet, George stumbled upon a new TikTok challenge that had just begun to gain traction. Excited by the potential of being one of the first to participate, he eagerly delved into the details of the challenge. This particular challenge involved performing a unique ritual that, once completed, was said to grant the participant the ability to glimpse into their future, if they were brave enough to stick around. It was dubbed the Flames of Foresight Challenge. They looked around and couldn't find anyone that was able to successfully complete the challenge. They all ended the same, with the TikToker abandoning their camera and the ritual. A few hours later, they might put up a video warning others to not try the challenge. Or nothing at all. This was it. George was ready, eager to make a splash on social media. He wasted no time in gathering the necessary materials for the ritual. He carefully studied the steps, determined to execute the challenge flawlessly. It had a lot of parts to it. He wasn't sure if he could get it all done on time. It said in the ritual's directions that it could be dangerous and should not be attempted more than once. George figured it was probably because it posed a fire hazard. This meant the ritual might take longer than TikTok would allow. George rewatched some of the videos where the people attempted the challenge and noticed they were all skipping the first few steps, so he followed suit. With his camera positioned at the perfect angle, George started the ritual. It was not safe at all. Required a lot of chemicals that were stored under the sink. You know, the ones your mom would explicitly tell you to not touch? George didn't care. He was going to be famous. Way more famous and alive than those NyQuil chicken eaters or that woman that gorilla glued her hair to her head. He thought that the seeing the future part was redundant, because after he did this, his future would be him being popular on TikTok. But he understood that was just for him. He performed the first few steps of the ritual. He had to draw strange symbols on pieces of paper and then dip them in various chemicals, then rest them beside a collection of sticks that he would have to ignite later. With all the preparation done, he began recording. Hey everyone, George here, and today I'm attempting something really exciting. I've discovered a new TikTok challenge that just started to trend. It's a ritual that's said to reveal your future once you complete it. Ooh, it's called the Flames of Foresight Challenge, and I haven't seen anyone able to complete it yet. So, sounds cool, right? So let's give it a try. Oh yeah, and this challenge involves fire, so don't try this at home or without your parents. I mean, I'm doing that, but you shouldn't do that. George performed each intricate movement with precision. He couldn't help but feel a sense of power building within him. The anticipation and excitement grew as he neared the end of the ritual. Finally, he was at the last steps. Set the sticks on fire to open the window to the spirit world to see his future. After he was satisfied, he was supposed to cover the fire with one last piece of paper, soaked in water, with the word "Gray" written on it. George took a lighter and lit the sticks on fire in his bedroom. The fire burned a moment. It was very small. As some of the papers caught fire, the color of the flames changed. Can you guys see that? This is so cool! George continued watching. Right at the very center of the fire started swirling around in a small circle. George had never seen anything like this. He began to see a tiny figure in the flames, walking up and out of the swirling fire. The fire reflected in his eyes. He saw the firewoman start to walk around the widening circle. How was this happening? Were the burning papers of chemicals making George hallucinate? Was he really going to see his future? At this point, George completely forgot about the camera. It was just him and the beautiful firewoman. Then she noticed him. This is it, George thought. She's going to show me my future. I just know it. The firewoman began a mesmerizing dance, and George moved closer, trying to get as close as possible without getting burned. As the dance intensified, an uneasy feeling crept up on him. The once enchanting firewoman began to transform into a terrifying, monstrous figure. Her face began to look like a hyena, and her arms and hands looked like snakes. Her movements were becoming more aggressive and erratic. All at once, she focused her attention on George and ran towards him. In complete shock and terror at the sight of this hideous being, George quickly got up and ran out of his room. He caught his breath in the hallway before turning around and going back in. By the time he got back in, the fire had begun spreading to his bed. In a panic, George ran to the kitchen, filled a pot with water, brought it into his bedroom, and put the fire out. With the fire out, he immediately went to check his phone. His phone was fine. This was the best outcome he could have hoped for. Getting scared and accidentally setting his room on fire and then putting it out? This video was TikTok gold. He immediately uploads it and starts watching it to give it its first like. As the video starts playing, George realizes he forgot something. The paper is soaked with water with the word gray on it. He never put it on the fire. I mean, his room was on fire. That paper wouldn't have put out a fire that big. And he had to act or the house would have burnt down. George felt that his parents would be proud of the decision he made. His newly uploaded TikTok was performing incredibly. He couldn't keep up with the likes and the comments. Some people thought it was all a hilarious, elaborate joke. Others thought it was 100% serious and were asking about what he saw. George felt a combination of happiness, relief, and satisfaction he'd never experienced before. He laid down on his partially wet bed and fell asleep. He figured if anything strange ended up happening, he could find the ritual online and ask what to do if he didn't close the window properly. It might even make for an interesting follow-up video. The next morning, George woke up to a bright sunny day. He rubbed his eyes and looked at his phone. It was overflowing with notifications from his viral TikTok video. He spent a few minutes scrolling through the comments and likes. A grin spread across his face. This was the moment he'd been waiting for. But as the day continued, George couldn't help but feel a growing sense of unease. That ritual did something. It could have been a hallucination due to him burning chemicals, or it was real. If it was just a hallucination, nothing mattered. But if it was real, there was an open window to the spirit realm in his room. George decided the best thing he could do was put his fears to rest and research the ritual more thoroughly to see how to close the window. He scoured the internet, but there wasn't much information he could find. He reached out to other TikTokers who performed the ritual before him and asked them for their advice, but none of them got back to him. While he had an impossible time finding out how to close the window for the specific ritual he tried, he was able to find a bunch of people talking about what happens if you don't close a window to the supernatural. All of them bad. Not knowing what to do, he went to this weird shop in town, Beyond the Stars. His mother always told him the shop was for people that thought they were witches. His mother thought these people were idiots, and now here he was, going to them, to hopefully get some help. When he entered the shop, it appeared empty. The employees must have been in the back room or something, he thought. There was a large collection of incense and oils. Their smell was so overbearing, it was like he was smelling all of them at the same time. He carefully walked along the wall. There were rocks, minerals, powders, and books. All at once he felt much better. Whoever worked here probably knew everything there was to know about magic. The books looked old and worn. It was exactly how he expected a book about magic to look. He carefully started pulling the book from the shelf when he was interrupted by the shopkeeper. "That's not for sale." "Oh, well, then why is it here?" George replied. We have classes here and perform rituals. Most of those books are for that. The books we have for sale are over here. What are you looking for? I'm not looking to buy anything. Oh, perfect. I love when people come to my shop looking for free stuff. No, I need your help. I have a problem. And George told the man what happened and asked what, if anything, could go wrong. The shopkeeper looked George up and down. George obviously wasn't joking. That sounds like a really complicated ritual. If you were able to perform it successfully, and that's a big if, you would definitely be in trouble. But honestly, you probably got it wrong and just scared yourself. Go home, kid. George took out his phone and pulled up his TikTok. As the shopkeeper watched, his face slowly took on an expression of horror. Okay, so what's the worst case scenario? George asked eagerly. The man paused and thought for a moment. I don't even know. Okay, you have 2 pitchers of Kool-Aid, a red one and a blue one. If you pour them both in one cup, do you have red and blue Kool-Aid in the cup? Or do you have purple? George felt silly. He didn't understand. That window to the spirit realm is going to bleed and mix into our realm, and our realm is going to bleed and mix into the spirit realm. Soon there won't be a red and blue pitcher, just 2 purple ones. And that's going to start in your room. That's where the highest concentration of magic will be, because that's where the window is. What do I do? Well, step 1 is to delete the TikTok. Are you crazy? I've been trying to get a viral video on TikTok for years. Look, kid, what's more important, your video or your life? George stood there silent. Hey, what the hell, man? Are you thinking about the question? No, can't we just close the window? Maybe. So let's try that before we delete the video. You don't get it, do you? If we can close that window, and that's a big if, it won't mean anything if some other kid comes along, sees your video, and performs the ritual too. Step 1 is delete that video. Stop the spread. George deleted the video and offered his phone to the shopkeeper as proof. Okay, what do I do now? What do you do now? It's a miracle you even got that first ritual right. The odds of you getting this right are so small, I'm packing up everything I can possibly think of that would help us, and you're gonna take me to your room. The shopkeeper pulled out a backpack and quickly started filling it up. By the way, if this works, you're gonna pay me back for everything I use. Okay, but what if it doesn't work? If it doesn't work, we're dead. Purple Kool-Aid, remember? What would I need money for? With the shopkeeper's bag packed, the 2 made their way to George's house. On the outside, it looked normal, but when they got inside, it was pitch black. George tried hitting the light switch. The power must be out. No. Look. As the light switch was flicked up and down, you could just make out a faint light coming from the bulb. This darkness eats light. What does that mean? It means whatever lurks in the spirit realm might have already noticed the windows open. You ever notice how if a room is completely dark and someone turns on a lantern, everyone ends up around the lantern? Now imagine you eat light, and because of that, you rarely ever see it. Anything that can see this lantern is coming for lunch. What kind of things? I don't know, man. Bad things. The shopkeeper reached into his pack and pulled out a small ornate lantern. He lit it, and a strange glow began pulsing out of it. Hey, how is your light created by magic? There's a holy man's thumb in there. That's what I lit. If the darkness manages to break this, you better hope it kills us too. It's worth a fortune. Stay close. No matter what you see in the shadows, keep near me. And the glow. The pulses pushed back the unnatural darkness as the 2 made their way through the house. The closer they got to George's room, the colder the air became. Their footsteps echoed and strange noises could be heard coming from within the walls. George pointed out his room door and slowly opened it. His room was even more distorted than the rest of the house. The walls bent and rippled as if they were made of water. That's a good sign, the shopkeeper said. What? What's a good sign? The ripples. I was right. The original ritual was started by fire and was supposed to end in water. Your room is trying to tell us that. Just then, something darted across their paths in the dark, scaring them both. Okay, let's do this thing then. I'm not sure what to do yet. I'm just pretty sure it'll involve water. Or some liquid. Hey, what if we made a new sheet of paper with the word gray on it, put water on it, and then put it where the fire was? The fire was supposed to die eating the paper, probably symbolizing darkness eating light. There's no ritual fire here right now. And even if we made one, it might still not work. There's a pretty good chance it'll just open up another window, and then when it ends, it'll close that second window we made. We need a symbolic way to show light eating the darkness. Just then the shopkeeper had an idea. The shopkeeper reached into his bag and pulled out a small glass vial filled with a luminescent glowing liquid. I created this mixture. It glows because one of the things in it is bioluminescent algae, he explained. When he uncorked the vial, a soft light began to enter the room. The darkness did not like that light. If only there was a way to know exactly how you prepared that paper when you performed the ritual, we could prepare another paper in the same way. If I gave you the paper, would you be able to tell just by looking at it? Just then, George pulled the paper with the word gray out of his pocket. The shopkeeper lit up and quickly looked at it. He set down a small gold bowl, put the paper in it, and started pouring the glowing liquid over it. The darkness in George's room responded immediately. As the piece of paper disappeared under the glowing liquid, the light in his room and house were completely restored. The shopkeeper stood up and handed George the small gold bowl. You need to take care of this now. Take care of it? Yes. That paper needs to stay trapped in the light in this room forever. Or until that paper disintegrates. But it's magic. It could take days, it could take decades. There's no safe way to check. If you start fishing around there with a spoon, and some of the paper breaks the surface, the window isn't really closed right now, it's just blocked. The shopkeeper collected his things, picked up his bag, and said goodbye to George. But before he left his room, he warned him. Hey, stay away from magic. And from TikTok challenges. Okay? Well, my friends, as the tale of the TikTok challenge gone horribly wrong comes to an end, we can see how the darkness can seep through the cracks of our seemingly innocent pursuits, forcing us to confront the unknown and the terrifying. I hope this eerie story has left you with goosebumps and a heightened awareness of the potential dangers lurking behind the screen. Really, you should probably watch less videos. I mean, not my videos. You should definitely watch more of my videos. As we close tonight's episode of Whispers in the Dark, I want to remind you all just how important you are. Technology has the power to bring us together, to bridge distances and connect us in ways we never thought possible. It's important we focus on the relationships and connections we can make, rather than competing for likes and attention. But also, you should like all of my videos. All Let's embrace the potential for genuine interaction and shared experience that technology offers, and cherish the real connections we can make with others. Remember, you are the heartbeat of this community, and it's your presence that makes Whispers in the Dark a truly special place. As always, I'm your host Eddie, and I hope you all sleep peacefully tonight. But, on this show, sweet dreams are not guaranteed. Good night.